financially, or like it may be kind of more normal. But either way, I think you're definitely going to see, even in a normal economic year, you always see teams that buy out players that are good. Like you could
Yeah.
see, I mean, obviously they have guys that are similar to this, but even the Nets getting like a Tristan Thompson on a minimum helps out. Like that's like all that stuff matters,
Hmm.
and getting guys like that really do help. And that's if the Nets don't really want to make a specific move. But look, I think as we mentioned, like, and this I think was a big point we made on a pod last week or 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
Like, what I don't like seeing with playoff teams, and which does end up happening a lot of times, is I don't like when the rotations and the lineups are too big, because you get to a certain point where you're like, we need to go with like our 8, 9 best guys, and like you don't want to be where like some teams are in the playoffs, like the Jazz, where they can barely get to 7, they're at like 6, they were at 7 or 6,
Hmm.
but like the whole idea of like, oh well, we go 10 or 11 or 12 deep, like that doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because you'd have like a decreasing marginal like utility of having those guys on the bench. It doesn't matter. I'd rather maximize the 7 to 8 to 9 guys that you're going to be really playing in these games that matter,
Yeah.
and would rather have guys like Claxton or whoever get some more experience to develop, because they could probably be replacement level guys at worst case. And so
Yeah.
and so
It's
and so that's another reason why I think there's something to like packaging some. It doesn't even have to be for a third star or like who would be considered a fourth star or whatever, but like you don't need Torian Prince and Garrett Temple and all like and having all the guards on the back of the team, and having Jordan and Jared Allen beyond the two superstars, and LeVert and Joe Harris. There's just it's a lot of dudes. Like at a certain point, you gotta like hone in on like who actually helps them win, who's important. Like obviously depth is always important. There's going to be injuries, but like having 13 guys where like 9 or 8 or B minuses or C pluses or Bs, whatever, it doesn't help. Like you need to kind of make sure that every position matters.
absolutely, and a lot of good points in there, especially considering uh, a lot of these teams are going to want to get under the cap. Now, the DeVosses are getting all kinds of stimulus money from the government right now.
I wonder how
Uh,
they got
the,
that.
we know,
Yeah, we
and
know.
he's the Orlando owner, but he's not. He's one of the. He's not as rich as a lot of the other owners, and I'm hoping that the fact that they're above the apron and the best player in the playoffs was Vucevic, that maybe that might help us. But I really believe these players believe that if it's me, Kyrie, and Anthony Davis, there's not a team in the NBA that's going to beat us, and it doesn't matter who the other 2 players or other 3
Oh
players
yeah.
are.
Okay.
But where they're wrong, and players never really get this, is players don't know how to sense their mortality, or even other players' mortality. The way Kevin Durant is going, I need DeAndre Jordan on this team, is because Kevin Durant isn't thinking like, someone who's analyzing building a basketball team. Well, how many jumps does this dude have left? How is he going to perform at 32 and 33 and 34 based off of the wear and tear, and how much he depends on athleticism to be the player who he is? So in his mind, he's like, that's fucking DeAndre Jordan. What do you mean start Jared Allen? Who is this kid? And they went to the same college, which is hilarious. They're both
Yep.
UT guys. But for him, if you hear players talk, they don't like young players. They don't like the unknown. They're not here for the rebuild. They're here to be the most dominant team as possible, and win championships and add to their legacy. And so that's the fear. If Steve Nash per se might take a look at this team and go, I had a guy who basically just was fast, ran around the court, got every rebound, got every loose ball, dunked the ball when I threw it up, no matter where I threw it up, and made my life a whole lot easier, made it where people couldn't really guard me. Um, uh, he might see it, but I'm pretty sure that these guys are going to, just based off of the fractionalization of the locker room, that they're going to go after a big player. Now, the hope is our savior, Steve Nash is going to come in and just be like that voice that sees it on the court, that says, let's just wait. Before we gut this team, let's see what we could do with these guys and go for it from there. But like I said, these deals are done a year ahead, and like this concept that players are guessing where they're going in July or when the free agency starts, that's nonsense. These are major corporations in sneakers, and when Kevin Durant moves, Nike moves with him. When Kyrie moves, Nike moves with him, and they're not gonna let them make poor career choices. It's killing Nike right now that Kyrie is not in the bubble. But what Kyrie's agent knows, and the rest of some of these other players know, and Nike knows, is that they'll just, you're not cool anymore, John Morant. Oh, looking at how these games that Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray's having, the new guard of guards are coming up. Let's tap into that. Those motivations are important to players, and so these players are going to want to win by any means, and they're not going to stand for another season like this one. And change is coming, man. I'm afraid. I hope it doesn't, but that's what it's looking like. And either way, as Nets fans, I think this year is going to be either hilarious or it's going to be the greatest year in Nets history, in Nets organization history, ever. And it'd be hilarious to see Steve Nash get a championship as a coach and not a player. But they've got the weapons to do it, man. It's insane. Like, I don't know. Where do you end off on the Steve Nash thing?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's hard for me, like, at this point to say anything bad about it, because, like,
it's perfect,
it's not like,
man.
What'd you say?
It's perfect.
Yeah, like, it's not like guys like Nick Nurse and like Brad Stevens and Rick Carlisle out there. Like, we saw who the other guys were, and like I think he's like the best of all worlds. And all I'm curious now about, which I know we're going to do a bunch of podcasts over the next couple weeks and months about, is like what's going to happen with the rest of this roster construction, because they obviously have the Joe Harris free agency, which, by the way, I thought it was interesting. I got an email from them about season tickets, and he was in the brochure thing. So I don't know if that's a mistake on the
who was in the brochure.
On the PR staff, or they know that he's going to come back, and they've gotten some type of reassurance about that. But
I got my season ticket stuff too, and it was Karras and Dinwiddie on it. Oh no, it was Karras and Jarrett on it. It was they didn't have Dinwiddie on anything. They had Karras, Jarrett on the cover of whatever that thing was. In the email, the header was Karras and Jarrett. And then when you scroll down, you saw KD and Kyrie. But that's it.
Yeah, which is interesting, right? Because like obviously there's a lot of different ways that they can like market this stuff, but I do think you tend to see a lot of these teams be very careful about what they do. But Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I expect. I think Harris is definitely going to be back. I see like no way that he isn't. Like, I think the whole team really likes him. He's honestly, I would say he's on this roster with what they're trying to do. He's like arguably the third most important guy on the team. Like, he's
Listen,
just
listen to me, Sam.
yeah.
Hear me now and smell my breath later. Joe Harris is going nowhere.
Yeah, that's what it seems like, and that's exactly that's basically what Marks almost said. Like,
Listen to me. Like, I know everyone wants to try to read into things, but they never really listen to the GM. The GM told you Popovich wasn't getting a job, but every Net fan thought he's definitely getting it. And if he's not getting it, it's Tyrone Lue. Neither one of those dudes was ever getting the job. And just in the same way, Sean Marks, when he says it is priority to sign this kid back, it is. And it's because of what he unlocks on the court for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. When you have a three-point champion, both on percentage and at the All-Star game, a guy that people know you can't let shoot, on the court, it unlocks everything for the KDs and the Kyries of the world. Going all the way back to Michael Jordan, you needed a Steve Kerr, you needed a Craig Hodges, you needed that guy that would sit there and teams would know, I can't completely hedge on Jordan because that guy is there.
yep.
Joe Harris, in their minds, is going nowhere. I think it would hurt. It's going to hurt Sean Marks because there is no player that is more beloved inside of that organization than Karis LeVert. That is their Derek Jeter. But if he has to be included, and for any big trade, and forget about the Rudy Gobert thing, it's never happening. Forget about the Bradley Beal thing. It's never happening. That guy, they're never bringing a guy in who's not even really like, you've never really seen him like, oh yeah, that, Kyrie's my boy, KD's my boy. Like, KD's from DC, and they're not really like, besides, hey, we've been to a few All-Star games together and stuff like that. We're NBA players. He's great. I'm great. It's the friendship is not there. Like DeAndre Jordan, that's KD's boy. You've known it ever since he was a free agent. You known it when KD was a free agent. That's his guy.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I was gonna say the only guy. It's a great point as it like pertains to kind of like the stars and like also who those guys are close with. Mm-hmm. The only guy who I would have ever thought could possibly also have been joined as a big three, besides the AD thing, which you rightly like noted that Kyrie and AD are really close, yep, was basically Jimmy Butler because him and Kyrie are super tight, and all three of them were on the Olympics team together. But obviously now that's a pipe dream.
There's 15 players on the Olympics team. There's more on the select team. They're not all cool. It's the guys when they go on vacation and you see them together, like, the only things the Timberwolves could do to make Cat happy was bring in D'Lo. Bringing in D'Lo is what ensures that he stays happy and he's there because that's his guy. Devin Booker's their other guy. It wouldn't be crazy to think that they somehow work something out to get Devin Booker there. I don't know anything. I'm not saying it, but because
like the number one pick.
Exactly, and they could potentially trade that to put that triumvirate together. Do they do it? Probably not. However, that's a real thing. You could if you're passionate enough about this game, you could kind of see how the things are shaping up. I mean, ever since the decision, I feel like a fool for not realizing it. But LeBron and D Wade and Bosh been going on vacation together before the decision. We should have known that's what was going to happen, a long time ago. But I don't think we were paying attention to it right. We were looking at what all the press was doing instead of looking at what the players were doing. And so, that's, you got to see who's AAU boys. If you played in an era with someone, that's your guy. That's someone you trust. You both made it to the NBA. You both did it. You were superstars when you were kids. You hung out with each other in the hotel that was